Welcome back to the Siren Podcast, Senator Gallego. Senator, how are you? There's some breaking news at the moment.
There's always breaking news nowadays.
Yeah, so let's just get into it. I want to talk to you, obviously, about Iran, and we will get to that because it's massively important. I don't want this news to trump all of that for long. But Secretary of the Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, was just removed from her post. She
Right.
was placed in a position of special envoy for the Shield of the Americas of our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere. Is that even a made-up thing? But let's just talk about Kristi Noem being fired and
Right.
your thoughts.
Well, let's talk about why she got fired. It wasn't because, under her watch, 2 Americans were killed in 2 weeks by federal agents, unprovoked. It wasn't the fact that they were racially profiling Latinos and African Americans and I'm sure Asian Americans too, all over this country. It wasn't the fact that they were arresting legal permanent residents and U.S. citizens and detaining them illegally. No, it was because she embarrassed Donald Trump, right? And that tells you more about the direction of the Homeland Security than not. I'm not sure that anything's going to change at all, because at the end of the day, it's Stephen Miller still in charge. They still have a lot of boatload of monies that they want to use to deport and mass deport people and separate families. And this is just kind of changing who's sitting on the deck chair as the Titanic's going down.
Yeah, you're right. It was none of those things that should have been in any other sort of semi-sane administration. Any one of those things would have been disqualifying, and she would have either resigned or been fired a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But in this administration, like you said, none of those things mattered. And she did embarrass him several times. She has embarrassed him several times, but none of that seemed to be a red line either. And I would argue that some of the things that got her ensnared in this firing today had to do with some of the corruption that was revealed yesterday, because I think of Donald Trump as a mob boss. And when she named him and said
Right.
that he personally approved this $220 million, he was probably like, I'm not getting a cut of that. Well, who's getting this money? Because it's not going to me. It's not lying in my pockets or my friends' pockets or my
Yeah, I mean,
pockets.
it could be either that, or it could just be like he doesn't want his name invoked for things that people are unpopular with, like
Yeah.
So he's like, why are you getting me involved? Like, maybe I did do it, but like, don't throw me under the bus, because everything about Donald Trump is always about Donald Trump. So, but again, like, she's not getting fired because she was a horrible Secretary of Homeland Security, because she was. It's because this is like, the president got his feels, wronged for some reason.
Right, which is incredibly sad. And she's done an incredible amount of damage to this country. I mean, literal lives lost, children and others just tortured and abused. And these people who were, kidnapped and taken to other countries and posing in front of cages with these men behind her like they were animals. I mean, she's honestly,
Oh yeah, I already forgot about that too. Yeah.
The list is so long, and I mean, you've probably seen the memes are circulating. It's like Justice for Cricket, because one of the things she did was audition for this job of depravity by bragging about executing her own dog and a goat. And one of your colleagues in the Senate, Tom Tillis, really gave her the riot act on this the other day, because apparently he's a dog lover. But I mean, it's just this endless list of depravity coming out in the immediate wake of Alex Preddy and Renee Good being murdered, and calling them domestic terrorists before there had ever been any even inkling of an investigation. And then yesterday and the day before, both in the Senate and the House, refusing to acknowledge that she'd said these things, and refusing to even say to the families, the parents of these people, I'm sorry, I got this wrong. Just endlessly depraved. But now this is a defunded agency in the hands temporarily of Markwayne Mullen. And you said it yourself. How does this change? How does this change anything for them?
It's not defunded as a problem, because remember, they have $175 billion from the big beautiful bill, which is actually a big ugly bill. And that's why we're trying to make sure that we rein in their spending and funds by not funding this year's ICE and Border Patrol budget, because they could just get it from somewhere else. I think it's important that we understand why we're doing this, because we saw what happened in Minnesota. We heard and still hear what's happening to individual citizens all the time, but the racial profiling, the heavy-handedness of these agents. And we say, you know what, we can't take away all the funds, because again, passed differently, but we don't have to add more money to you. We don't have to give you more money.
Right. And this, whoever it is, needs to be approved, obviously. Right. So he would only be the interim Secretary of Homeland Security, and it has to go through your chamber, to
Correct.
say the very least. Let's pivot, because this is, I mean, arguably good news for America in some ways, and yet a net zero in others, because, like you said, Stephen Miller is really one calling the shots. But this, to me, that's it's an important story, but it's not as important as what is going on in Iran, and what just happened in the Senate, where they voted to rein in Trump's war powers, and your
Yeah.
colleagues, other than Rand Paul, unanimously said, "No, it's fine. Go ahead." So I want to talk about Iran, this war, not war. They say it's a war. They say it's not a war. Obviously, it's a war. And why your colleagues across the aisle said it's fine. He can do this because he's threatening to do this now in Cuba and beyond.
Yeah. I mean, I can't speak exactly why they did it, but the most logical reason is they're also afraid of Donald Trump. They're afraid of his voting base, and they're afraid of even some of his people that are fanatic. Um, because like at the end of the day, this is an illegal war. We still don't have a real justification of why we went to war and conducted an imminent attack. Or sorry, did an attack on Iran. We still don't know what the outcome of this is. Who's in charge? Who's in charge of Iran right now? What does the exit strategy actually look like? We don't. We know nothing. And the fact that my colleagues across the aisle aren't willing to rein that in, at least, is it's scary and sad, because we're again approaching slowly another Iraq war situation.
I think a lot of Americans that this is deeply unpopular. It's unpopular with his base, which is interesting to me, because this is one of the things he campaigned on. I mean, there's a million sound bites of him saying, "I'm no new wars. I'm the peace president. Kamala will be dragging your sons and daughters into a protracted war in Iran, in the Middle East, etc." And yet he turns around and he's now bombed, I think, more countries than any other president at this point in their term, etc., etc. He's talking about other places. We have Venezuela on the map. We have all these fishing boats.
Right.
We have them blowing, they had submarine torpedoing a ship yesterday, etc. This is so deeply unpopular with the American people and with his base. Again, electorally, this should be an albatross for Republicans. He doesn't have to be on a ballot again, but they do.
Yeah, I think it is. But you got to remember, a lot of them are more worried about the primary than they are about the general. And so until the primary season passes, a lot of people that just kind of want to still survive and vote, not vote, but work on other issues that they care more about, just going to keep their head down. And when the primary season passes and some of these guys win their primaries or have no one announced against them, then you might see a little more courage. But in the meantime, you're putting hundreds of thousands of U.S. Troops in danger. But this is the situation that we have. Like, this is why you need to have Democrats in charge, because we would not be doing this right now. You'd have a war powers resolution that's actually passed. Would be restricting what they could do with their money, and unfortunately, that's what happens when these guys take full control.
Last thing before you go, I have 1 minute. As we've talked about the military, this is near and dear to my heart. I know that obviously you have served. Pete Hegseth's comments yesterday that I don't think are getting enough attention, where he essentially said that the press is only putting the stories of the fallen on the front page to make Donald Trump look bad. I just wanted to get your thoughts on those comments, because I was incredibly, my blood started to boil just hearing him say that.
Well, I mean, for me, from my experience, and dealing with the men I served that died, it was important when they died that they were recognized by their communities, by the media, especially because there was unfortunately too many of them. And it was also a very important reminder to the American public that we are at war. The danger when we go to war, which was what I saw in 2005, is that people just got so used to it, and they were fine with like men dying and women dying, here and there, and not really understanding like there's a war going on, and everyone got to kind of continue living their life. So that was that's a purpose of us being able to have this, to show the real cost of it. It's not to denigrate Trump or Hegseth. It's to remind people we're at war. As a U.S. citizen, you should understand what that means. You should, question what's going on, or you could not, but at least you should know. And this idea that somehow, it's designed to make Trump feel bad or look bad. No, I mean, the most important thing is for us to recognize their service and their sacrifice, because that's the minimum we should be doing to them. And just trying to ignore it and sweep it on the rug is actually more more insulting than anything else.
Agreed. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you. I know you're
Thank
very
you.
busy. Thank you for sharing
Kaido.
your
Have
advice.
a good
Okay.
one.